So I'm going to go over the Chapter 16 homework problems assignment. So you would have read the chapter. As you're reading the chapter, I recommend covering up the answer and working those need-to-know questions, or at least to go over the need-to-know videos that are provided. There's also the concept videos. You need to read and study before you do the problems assignment. And so this first one is just really a vocabulary assignment, the one I wanted to kind of point out because we're focusing on the weighted average method. So you'll see one of these choices computes equivalent units only on production activity in the current period. And that's not what we're doing. We're using the weighted average. The choice for that is FIFO method. So I want to give that to you because I was not asking you to focus on it, and it did pop up in this question. So the others you should know based on what we studied in the chapter. So that was the only definitional one. Then the next one are problems, and you're really going to be working on the problems. They're really repetitive. So you should have a pretty good feel for how the process costing works, the steps in the process costing. And I cannot recommend enough that you invest, it's about 17 minutes of your time, to watch my additional demonstration video. So this is where I go over how you do process costing steps 1 and 2, okay, and then process costing steps 3 and 4. So watch that demonstration and make sure you understand it. And after you watch that, I think these will go pretty quickly. It's a pretty straightforward process, okay? So we start off, we've got to calculate the equivalent units, all right? And so up here you're being told the information, the number of units completed and transferred out. We know those are 100% complete, and then we know the ending work in process. Here you're given the percentages of a completion, okay? And then you get your cost per equivalent unit of production, okay? So you're accumulating the costs, you're taking the information that you've been given. It's broken down between direct materials and conversion costs. We'll divide by the equivalent units of production that you computed in requirement A. Get your cost per equivalent units of production. You'll use that in requirement C. So now you'll be able to assign costs to the units completed and transferred out, as well as the ending work in process. And you need to make sure that this total cost accounted for equals the total cost to account for in your information. And that's really the process. Those are the 4 steps in the process. And you're just going to get more reinforcement with the other problems. So you can see here, you're doing it again, okay? They gave you the beginning work in process, completed and transferred out, ending work in process, okay? And so after you've read and studied, you know which units we use to calculate the equivalent units of production. You're given the percentage completion, okay? And really, we are using the weighted average method. So the completion method for the beginning work in process doesn't matter for what we're doing in the weighted average method. Requirement B, again, you're going to get the cost per equivalent unit of production. Use that to assign costs to the units that were completed and moved out of this department's work in process inventory into the next department's work in process inventory. And then you'll also compute what the ending work in process is for this department. And when you add the completed and transferred cost and the ending work in process cost, this total cost accounted for needs to equal the total cost to account for. Okay. You're going to do it again, but now you're going to do it on the production cost report. So you were doing the steps. This is how it would be laid out. This would be an example. This would be the actual report that each department would have. And you're going through and calculating the 4 steps, okay? We're figuring out how many units to account for. We convert that to equivalent units. We take the total costs between what was in beginning inventory, the costs that were incurred during the period, divide that by the equivalent units of production you got in the previous step. That gives you the cost per equivalent unit. And then we can just multiply the equivalent units by those cost per units, and that's how we come up with our cost. You're going to do it one more time in 5, and it's just going through that same 4-step process. Here's our production cost report. So again, by the repetition, by the time you get through this one, you should have it down. But then the extra thing is they want the journal entry, okay? And that journal entry is given to you. If you come back, this process costing steps 3 and 4, you can see that is shown in this video. It's also definitely shown in the chapter as well. The other thing I want to show you is for chapter 16, in addition to the SmartBook assignment and the problems assignment, you're going to have an Excel sim problem. I think we've got maybe 4 or 5 Excel sim problems that we're going to be doing this semester. If you took Business 131 before fall of 21, that you didn't do your Excel assignments in Connect, so you were just doing them in Excel, though you did Excel problems that I wrote. However, you learned the same skills as the students that took Business 131 in fall of 21 in the new textbook. Okay, it's just you're not familiar with this format. When you're doing these problems, you cannot type in numbers. Okay, it makes you build formulas for everything. So we have all the information here, and you're going to have to go through and enter, okay, the units transferred to the next department. This one is the one that's going to make you think a little bit. I'm not going to give you the answer, but we're told our beginning work in process units. We know how many units were started into production, okay, and then we're also told how many units in ending work in process. So you're going to have to build a formula, okay, using these numbers to come down to the units completed and transferred. So you might need to maybe kind of map this out on paper a little bit, but you cannot type in the number. If you figure it out the way that I'm showing you in my videos, that's all right, but then you can't just type in the number. Even if you type in the correct number, it will be wrong if you don't use a formula, okay? And so then you're going to know the units transferred to the next department. Since those are 100% done, these are also the equivalent units. For the ending work in process, you're only going to show the equivalent units. So they tell you how many units are in process. You're going to then multiply it by the percent completion to get the equivalent units, okay? And then you're going to have to build a formula, right? It has to be equal click plus click. You can't type it in, right? Same down here, the cost of the beginning work in process, right? They tell you that here's the beginning inventory, here's the materials cost, here's the conversion cost. You can't type in 10,500. You do equal, you come on up and you click on the 10,500, hit enter. Okay, so make sure you're doing that for every single cell down here. You can never type in the number. That's how you bring it down. Okay, so it'll be one more time, right? Doing that 4-step process, fill in all of the items. All these yellow cells need to be completed with formulas, not numbers, formulas. Okay, so good luck with that. Reach out to me with questions. Hopefully by the time you get through, you will have done this 4-step process. 3 or 4 times in the homework problems assignment, one more time with the Excel sim. You should have it very well cemented in your head, understanding the process, because you're going to need to do this on the exam. Next week, we'll have the exam on chapters 14, 15, and 16. And I always urge students to master the concepts in the week they are covered. Okay, you do have a full week. The exam is open for a week. You have a week to find time to take the exam. You need to study, but you also need to make sure you schedule the time to do the exam before it's due. And I tell students, if you treat the exam like an open book exam, you're going to run out of time. You need to show me what you know. You can't just be matching up numbers. So make sure you're fully mastering the 4-step process for a process costing system. Let me know if you have any questions.